don't know what you're eating, it smells good.
Tootsie Rolls. Okay, welcome to the October 23rd, 2013 Budget Committee meeting. We've started a little bit early tonight, 6:30, for so we can have a non-public session. We'll make a motion to go into non-public per RSA 91A:3, Section C, matters which, if discussed in public, would likely affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of the public body itself, unless such person requests an open meeting. This exemption shall extend to any application for assistance or tax abatement or waiver of a fee, fine, or other levy, if based on inability to pay or poverty of the applicant.
So seconded.
And we have a second from Wayne. And we'll have a roll call vote.
Yes.
Jane?
Aye.
Oh, yes.
Wayne? Aye. And
Look it, I went over to do something to it and I almost knocked
Thank
it
you,
over.
ma'am.
okay, we're coming out of the non-public session per RSA 91A:3, Section C.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we seal the minutes of the non-public session.
I'll second it.
We have a motion to seal the minutes of the non-public and a second. Any discussion on that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? So moved. Seal that. Okay, I know we have a couple people that are going to be coming up shortly. We can go over the minutes from the previous meeting. Everybody's got them, and you can look through. Okay, whenever anybody's ready. He's in order. A couple more, just one more minute, we're just going to accept the minutes or change them, and then
No, it's mine, go ahead, sit. You sit in mine, yeah.
Good evening. Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the meeting minutes of the October 16, 2013 meeting of the Tilton Budget Committee.
I'll second it.
we have a motion and a second to accept the minutes from the previous meeting. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Okay, can get right into this then. So, you must be Gail.
I'm not, I'm Terry.
Terry.
I'm here for the one facility.
Trans-
Oh, okay. Well, we can sit up here with us and...
Sure.
Yeah.
Lorna?
Come up to big table?
The big table.
And, yes, yeah, that's right, you were here last year, and I think the year before.
I think I was, probably.
Yeah. It's great.
And Mr. Littlefield, welcome.
Nope, Jim Sudak.
Jim, I know. You can guess, we got two substitutes tonight, Mr. Chairman.
You were here last year.
Yes, yes.
Good. And you are representing
Winnipesaukee Transit.
Transit? Okay.
Hey,
Mr. Littlefield signs all the papers, we just do all the talking.
You're not one of those computer things, are you, that just keeps signing
No,
all
no,
these
no,
documents?
Okay, so, there it is.
Found it.
I just put my little binder tabs on there tonight. So we got your budget and all that. We have a couple new members that aren't real familiar with the transit system.
Yep.
So we can go over just how things are going in the past year. I think last year we talked about maybe possible different ways of funding to supplement your funding levels on it. And if you can explain some of that, and
Sure.
if anybody has questions, we can
Go from there.
go from there.
Sure. Start, or you want me to?
Go ahead.
Okay. The Winnipesaukee Transit System runs from West Franklin, what used to be the West Franklin Healthcare Center, it's now an empty building, but we're keeping the stop there because we actually have a number of people who ride from there still, so that's the only service area for that part of town. We go from that as one endpoint all the way up to Walmart in Guilford as the second endpoint. We follow the Route 3 corridor all the way up through there, through several parts of Laconia, including Laconia Hospital, the train station, a couple grocery stores up and through around Laconia area, out to Guilford, and then back again, and we do that 4 times during the day. It's a long geographic area to cover for round trips. And we have, in addition to that set route where we have 11 stops along the route, we have one here right behind, beside the fire station in the parking lot. I think it's parking lot D, public parking lot D back there. We have a stop there, and we have a stop at Walmart in Tilton for the 2 Tilton stops, and then we have a stop in West Franklin, and we have one next to the town hall in Franklin for the middle of Franklin. And then we have a stop in Belmont at the Belmont Mall, and then several stops in Laconia, and then up to Guilford. So those are the set stops that are timed stops along the route. In between those stops along the entire route system, we deviate a quarter of a mile to pick somebody up if they need to. So if they can't get to one of those 11 stops, they have to call a day ahead and ask for us to go and pick them up, and we'll pick them up and take them where they need to go. We only go a quarter of a mile off the route, but that's a pretty significant coverage area for that, and that's for anybody. The really cool thing has happened this past year that's, I think, very encouraging for us is the increase of folks that we're picking up and as those deviations that are needing to get to work. So we've moved beyond providing the typical service that we would for seniors and people with disabilities. We're now picking up folks who are trying to get to jobs, and most of the jobs are right here in Tilton, actually, either at the not Belknap Mall, at the Tanger Mall, or at Pizza Hut. We have 2 people that actually work at Pizza Hut that we bring on a regular basis, and we have a person that works at J. Jill that we bring back and forth, and they're regular deviations. We pick them up all the time and drop them at those spots, which is really nice. That's encouraging for us to have folks that we're helping to keep gainfully employed. That's a really nice piece. And we have the bulk of the rest of our deviations are folks who can't drive, or seniors, have a disability, need to get to medical appointments. We do a lot of combination of services with the other service providers in the area. We have the Trip Center over in Franklin that serves Tilton, Franklin, Belmont, and a little bit of Sanborn. They go out that way.
Sanborn.
And we've been able to combine with them and the volunteer driver program that's new, that's under the Community Action Program that serves all of Belknap and Merrimack counties, to get folks back and forth with combinations of services. So one of the examples we have are some folks who need to have dialysis up at Lakes Region General Hospital. They may ride the senior bus up to the hospital, but then take the Winnipesaukee Transit bus back, or vice versa. Winnipesaukee Transit may bring them, and then either the senior bus or the volunteer driver program will bring them back. We have a couple of folks who do that for shopping, because with the length of trip that it is on the Winnipesaukee Transit System. It would take two hours for them to get picked up again on the way back through, and their ice cream's going to melt by that point. So we'll get them there by the Winnipesaukee Transit System, and either the volunteer drivers or the senior bus will pick them up and bring them home. So that's been really helpful, and I think really impactful for the people that we've been working with. We've done some work with getting some additional revenue into the system. We do have some advertising now on the buses,
Yep.
which is really great. This is the first time we've had actual advertising on, and I don't know, do we have numbers for that yet?
No, not as of yet.
We can't
Yeah.
use, yeah. Go
Yeah, I'll
ahead.
explain. Because of the federal funding, we're not allowed to use advertising money, like sign advertising, in the same year. In other words, it has to be held over. And the reason for it is what they're saying is, because of the sign advertising, if there's any cost to do it, we have to deduct it out of the advertising. There's no real cost, I mean, for a $4 sign rack or whatever, but they do it for just that reason. We have to hold it over. And we're now, it's alternative transit advertising does it. We get a sign and it's shipped to us by UPS, we put it on the bus and get paid for running it around town.
Yeah, so
So
next year,
there's-
that'll hit our budget as additional income.
We should
so-
have some coming in this year.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
So-
because it started before July.
Yep. Yeah, our fiscal is June to July.
Do you have a question, sir?
Well, several. Did you want to go further into the details, or is it time to just start asking some of the...
Ask your question.
Well, the request for appropriations was $5,000. You put $1,200. I'm guessing that means 1,230 people, not dollars. Number of
Passenger.
Tilton residents.
Yeah.
And then you're estimating next year of 2,000. That's a bump of 700 and almost 800 people. Why are you so optimistic?
Well, that's actually, I think that's rides, not people, right?
Right, that's rides.
That's rides.
Well, it's over 30%.
Yeah.
40%.
One of the things that we're very eagerly looking forward to is the new senior center down in Lockmere is going to be starting what do they call it? Congregate meals, thank you, on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, right?
Mondays, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays.
Yep, so it's going to be an additional 3 days to what they're currently serving. And from what we're hearing, people are really excited about that, and the anticipation is they're going to be riding in groups from Bell Peabody and a couple of the other centers that we serve to get folks up there. And that would be 3 days a week. Who knows how many people per day, but we were sort of averaging out, 10, maybe 20 people a day. We're kind of thinking that might be a significant hit for us, so, in a good way, in a really good way.
Well, one of the other things is we recently did a route change,
Yeah,
and with a new schedule and everything, and it always, I mean, way back from day one, you make any kind of a route change, you're going to lose ridership for a short period of time.
and then it comes back
And
up
then all
again.
of a sudden, it just rolls right back in. They get used to it
Yeah.
and everything. So, and that's why our anticipation is, it's usually 18 months. You make a route change, and it's like 18 months, you do a complete turnaround.
The other question that I had, I'm just looking at the numbers, as of, for instance, for your budget, it was asking for the town support, federal, you have a certain amount of town support, is $7,500, where you're asking for 5,000 of that, 2/3 of the cost from Tilton, and Franklin, Laconia, Guilford, only 2,500. Why is such a disparity?
Well, that's a little bit of history, because we ask all of those towns every year, and unfortunately, the last 2-3 years, we haven't gotten any response from most of them. Franklin is not funding anything beyond what their basic budget is, and Laconia did fund us last year, and we're anticipating it's going to go up a little bit this year with them, but it's just trying to get money where there's not often any money is one of those things. So we do make the asks every year, and we just rely on being able to get something. We, again, we're looking at augmenting funding in other ways besides just the advertising. I had a conversation recently with the manager for Tanger Outlet Malls. We've been working on the transportation demand management project that's going on for the Route 3 corridor, and he's on that committee. And we're looking at trying to do some really, I think, great work with contacting employers in the area to start working with them around some transportation demand management stuff, like giving incentives to employees to use alternative transportation instead of a single ride vehicle. That's going to help with the congestion that's along Route 3, and hopefully will bring some ridership into us and some additional income into us as well. And he made the great point that, you know, not to just rely on advertising from employers and business in the area, but to actually make the ask to them for donations, because typically they're different pots of money, so they may be able to do a donation where they may not have the advertising budget to do any sort of advertising. So that's a tact that we're going to pursue going forward as well. So we're going to try to do the donation advertising and do the TDM management stuff with businesses to try to get some extra funds in, so.
And now, like we talked about earlier, you're estimating, let's call it 2,000 rides for next year for Tilton residents. How many rides total do you give for all the different towns? Estimate.
That's you, I don't have that off the top of my head.
Where last year was 1,200 for us, you know, just, what percentage? Because if we're asked for, you know, 60 or so, 65% of the cost,
The total rides in FY13, FY13 runs from 7/1 to 6/30 to June 30, was 5,405 rides.
what was the number?
For everybody, 5,405. That was for everybody.
Tilton residents were estimated at 1,200 of those.
What percentage of those were Guilford riders, per se?
I could find it, yeah, I could find it, but this is just, the way they rate transit is, we don't make money.
Guilford actually probably isn't going to be that many, because the only stop we have in Guilford is Walmart. We're actually just bringing people to Guilford. There's not many residents out that way. So we're actually, we had, part of the route change that we did was making that extension back out to the Walmart in Guilford, because that was
There was a big push.
From ridership and from people in the area to go back out there. So we made that adjustment to answer that feedback and to help folks give them what they wanted for the ride. So we only go out, we go up that, what is that, Central Street? Not Central Street, I can't think of the name of it.
Center Street?
Union
Union.
Union Ave. We go up Union Ave to Walmart and go back down again. So there's not many residents in there that we actually impact. There is some there's a mobile home park in between, out behind Wendy's, I think, out there. So we do pull some people from there, but typically we don't have a lot of ridership that are actually Guilford riders, because we're just going out to kind of deliver folks to that area, not actually bring folks back, so.
And, you know, just reading your summary of things, it was just, you know, just because your ridership was so low, it was tough for you were wondering if it was worth justifying having, and ridership is down, and then after that, you acquired 2 new buses through the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. You hired a mobility manager, and then hired a travel trainer. So if you're having difficulty justifying existence, why are you expanding?
Well, we aren't actually, WTS actually isn't expanding. The mobility manager and the travel trainer was hired by Community Action Program for Belknap, Merrimack counties, and we work with Concord Area Transit and the Winnipesaukee Transit System. There's a portion of time that goes to each of those systems. So we weren't actually hired by WTS, but the the role for both the mobility manager, well, that was my position, so kind of toot my own horn here, but the role for the mobility manager and the travel trainer was to expand ridership, and I really think that that has worked. The role of the mobility manager is to get out and do outreach, to make connections, to get people aware of the service. I think in the Lakes region, I did an average of, trying to remember last year, I think it was 8 distinct outreach just to the Lakes region to let folks know about the Winnipesaukee Transit System, to get folks aware of what was going on. I do the work with the TDM management stuff, and the travel trainer actually works with customers to ride the bus. So we, up in the Lakes region, we actually worked with, in 2013, it was 25 different customers to ride the Winnipesaukee Transit System. So we actually get people on the bus. We help them figure out the schedules, get them on to help them ride, do all of that stuff. And when we were looking at whether to provide the service or not to provide the service, which was actually before I came on board, that was the year before I was hired. We lost funding because of the low ridership, and there was such a great response from the residents of Tilton, Franklin, and Laconia to say, we want this service, we want it here, it's important to us, this is what we want. We put together the service that we could, which is the existing service. We went down from 2 buses running full-time on 2 separate routes to 1 bus running at a time along the entire route. So we really made some significant changes and some significant cuts to keep what service we could with the money that we had. So we were trying to be as flexible as we could and still meet the needs for the residents, so.
The upside being inside CAP, I came from for-profit 15 years ago. Took me quite a while to figure it out, non-profits, but anyway, that was good. CAP, for instance, we have a central calling center down in Concord. They take care of Winnipesaukee Transit, CAT, VDP, the volunteer drivers and everything. So they can just call in on one phone and they can access any one of the services. So they tell us what they want and we give them the best that we have in that particular area at the time. The thing is with the funding now, that we just got this last go-around with the sequestration and everything, we actually took a 10% cut in Winnipesaukee at over $8,000. That's the federal funds, okay? Federal funds coming down is an 80-20 match. 80-20 in admin and capital maintenance, but when it comes down to operations, it's only 50-50. So the bottom line is we got to come up with 50% in one area, 20% in the other, but we got cut 10% on the federal side. So it's a significant hit this year, and we got to make it up somewhere as far as, and now CAP and everything is, we're looking where it's going to come from through all the cuts through everything. So it's, and part of it is the dispatch area being down in Concord, we've got, 1 person, 2 AM and PM shift, and they're covering the whole gamut for the whole area.
So you guys work for CAP, Community Action, in other counties, not just Belknap, and you were talking about how you had Concord as one. And what, is there an equivalent to Winnie in Concord?
Yeah, yeah, that's
Concord Area Transit.
On the edge of that?
No, unfortunately.
That's my question, is it viable to go from Franklin to Guilford, whereas from Tilton to Concord would be much more helpful, I think, to our residents?
Right. And that's an ongoing issue across the state, that the connecting the different transit organizations to get that ability to go from service area to service area is a true need. And we're getting there slowly. They've actually just started a new service from Manchester to Concord, actually from Nashua to Concord, but Manchester Transit Authority got permission and pulled down some funding because they're a large urban, so they have access to different federal funds than we do. Because we're a rural transit system, there's this whole different ballgame in terms of what we can access for funding. But through them, through the large urban, they're able to, I guess they're small urban, not large urban. Small urban. They now have a transit that goes from Nashua to Manchester to Concord and back several times a day, which is awesome, and it's the first time it's happened. This year was the first time it's happened. So residents are able to go back and forth pretty quickly. It's a half-hour loop that runs from Manchester to Concord, basically, which is great. Ideally, that should start happening across, and they've actually just started another one from the Dover-Portsmouth area to Concord. Oh, no, I guess that's to Manchester. Is that going, it's going to Manchester?
Manchester.
I think you're
So,
not understanding my question, in that, places like Concord, Manchester, they're more urban. We're more rural. I don't
Correct.
think you consider us actually rural.
yep, we do actually follow the rule.
When you go from Tilton to Guilford, we would be more rural. If we can connect to a line to Concord, being that I don't think it would lower the services for, the people that need to get to hospital, the places that need to go,
Yep.
but it would also help our businesses.
The only
It's
access,
just not possible.
the only access to funding.
My issue is, we have a fifth of the ridership, and we're asked to pay two-thirds of the cost. And granted, the federal government pays the largest chunk of it.
Yep.
How do you justify a transit system in a rural community?
Well, the piece that I think is important for the service that we're able to provide in the rural area is that it's a way for people to be able to access transportation that's not relying on friends, family, the neighbor. We do have the volunteer driver program, which has been a wonderful way to augment and fill in the gaps that the transit system doesn't cover. But by providing that transit system, we allow people to stay independent, to make the choice to get where they need to go without having to rely on somebody to take them. It's a whole different kind of mindset than it is for having to call somebody else up to say, come get me and give me a ride. They can potentially get to a bus that's going there anyway. It gives them that sense of independence and that sense of being able to do for themselves. And we are seeing an increase, as I said, in folks who are using it to get to work, to actually make that commute to work and to make that connection. So I know the numbers seem small, but the impact, I think, is really much larger than what the individual numbers are, because you're helping residents stay independent and stay viable and part of the actual community in, providing those rides. And, the people that are coming to work here may not be very many right now, but I do see that as changing. We're providing a service to Tilton, even though it's not a Tilton residence, they're coming in to work here. They're providing work for, they're filling a job for somebody. They're
Right.
bringing money into the region, so.
One of the other things that Winnipesaukee, you can't really see it when you look at the transit system. It's, for instance, the VDP. Right now, we're taking a lot of customers. The way we look at it, it's an unmet need, okay? So they can't jump on Winnie and go to Concord Hospital for dialysis, or they can't go there for something. In turn, when they call into dispatch, that's why that's covered and you don't quite see that. So that's got to get paid for, and that's all part of the system, that will find them a ride no matter what. And there are people coming down out of, I know, Tilton, Franklin, there's some coming out of Laconia.
And I think we are looking, I didn't misunderstand your question. We are looking at trying to make that connection. And there is a Concord Trailways bus that comes out of Tilton twice a day that we made sure people could get to in our schedule to get onto that, to get down into Concord. But truly, the funding isn't there. We can access what's called commuter funds, which is what's actually running the new system from Manchester up to Concord. They got commuter funds to be able to, it's a federal fund that they pull down to provide that service. Because we're designated rural, we don't necessarily qualify for that. So there is the issue of trying to find the funding that would be able to provide that service. So, you know, it's the... You know, one of the things that I think would be interesting to be able to do at some point is to do some sort of a poll data gathering piece for the area to say what are people's needs and what do they want again. You know, we did that when we started looking at how we were going to provide the service with the limited funds that we had, which resulted in the current route structure that we have. So maybe it's time to do that again. You know, maybe we do another needs gathering exercise to see if that's something that's people are looking for.
And I asked that because, you know, just doing math, as I'm reading the different things, and, you know, we're asked to pay 2/3 of the cost. Now that we get the number of about approximately 5,000 rides, last year at a budget of $125,000, we're looking at $60 per ride. If you got off of Winnie Transit being a bus entity and expanded the volunteer program to get into a different, would you lose the federal funding?
Yes.
And that's where I get where it's a few $1,000s gets us $80,000 to $100,000 in federal funding. But as an American taxpayer, I start asking the question,
Right.
how do we justify $60 a ride?
And actually, $60 a ride is kind of norm. I know because it's a demand response system, that's about normal for that type of a ride. A fixed route system is a lot less per ride potentially, but for a demand response system, that's about normal for a ride. So.
Just two easy questions?
Sure. Go ahead.
Two easy. What is the cost to the rider?
Depending on how far you go, if you're just staying in one town, it's $1 for a one-way ride. If you're going beyond that, it goes up to, if you go the whole, from Guilford all the way down to West Franklin, it's $2
Okay.
for a one-way ride.
Routes are set by you folks, or are they set by state regulations?
By us.
Okay.
We have to have approval from the state in order to make any major change.
So if you were to go from Tilton to Concord, you would have to have approval from the state
Yep.
in order for that to occur. You just could not do it yourself.
Correct.
Okay.
If we wanted to add some routes in Tilton, we could do that. You know, like a regular route to the Pines or a regular route to a specific spot.
Right.
Yeah, we have to go through a process for it. We have to do public hearings, and we have to...
justify the rider.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep, all that stuff, yep.
The other question I have was, if you worked out something with local businesses, not necessarily advertising on your bus, et cetera, but say, for instance, like a Black Friday special trip to Walmart and the Tanger outlets, would you lose any funding or have any issues with, what would the cost to the business be?
We have to be really careful about that because we can't charter. That's one of the things that we can't do under the federal funding guidelines, but there are ways around that. I kind of like doing stuff like that. I like getting creative. One of the things that we started to do and didn't get a chance to finalize was when the farmers market was down here at the old Agway building, there was an issue with parking. So she was looking to be able to use us as a shuttle on Saturdays to get folks back and forth from Tanger Mall parking to the farmers market. And we couldn't do it as a charter, but we could have done it as a regular Saturday service as long as we opened it up to the public. So if we could have had the funding to hire the driver, basically, to run that bus for the day, as long as we had it open to the public and everybody was paying the same fare, we could have done it. It wouldn't have been any problem. So that would be the situation. If we wanted to expand service like that, if we could find the funds to pay for the driver to actually do the trip, as long as it's open to the public and it's not just a isolated group of people that we're transporting, then it's fair game. So.
And that's why I ask, and I don't want to, eat up too much of the time with it, but that's the most conflicted thing I have on this committee is how do we justify it? And the issue that I have is, the people who need it the most will lose it, and it'll hurt them the most. How do we justify that in that we give our businesses something for that? And that's why I ask, Concord would be a lot better for our businesses, getting customers from that area up to here and our people to jobs there. How many people are,
Yep.
That's why I ask, and that's why I hate to drone on and ask so many questions.
The concern I'm hearing, though, is first the state would have to approve that change
Right,
to
and that's
Concord.
why, how do you...
And you'd also be in conflict with Concord's mass transit system.
No, it wouldn't be a conflict, no. In fact, it would be great, because we're already working with Manchester Transit Authority for folks that are coming up from Manchester to get them then further to where they need to go. So it's the same, we do the same thing with Blue Loon. Have you guys heard of the Blue Loon?
I've heard of Blue Loon.
But at the same time, we could have the conflict because Concord could say, it'd be great to set up from Concord to Tilton, so we'll run people from there.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you lose business because they come and take people and move down, so it's a trade-off.
But it could be either way, really. I mean, Concord potentially could provide that if we could get funding for it.
I
to
think you
come
have a
up,
very
yeah.
different audience, and I think
Yeah.
that needs to be considered.
Yep.
You have people that have a need for transportation to do the loop that you do.
Yep.
Those are not the same people who have the need to go to Concord.
Right.
Yep.
And
There could be a little
another-
bit of overlap, but
Yeah,
yeah.
but there's another issue too, and I think that we're going to see an increase simply because you've heard of something called the graying of New Hampshire. I think that's a very important concept when we're looking at services like this, because a lot of the people who ride the bus don't have a driver's license because they aren't really physically able to drive. And not all of those are elderly. They're not as old as I am. But I think you need to look at that, that we are going to have an increased demand just because we do have that phenomena of the graying of New Hampshire that is not going to go away.
There's actually the other side, too. There's data out there now that's proving that younger people are just choosing not to drive and not to get a vehicle. So we're kind of getting it on
Yeah.
both ends. And we're seeing that in Concord
yeah.
especially. There are a lot, our demographic in Concord is going, we're getting a lot younger folks on the bus in addition to the seniors. So we're definitely getting it from both sides. So I think that's true.
I spent a wonderful summer in Canada, where you could go
They
any
have a
place.
great system up
When you
there.
go to Edmonton for 75 cents, you can go any place on the bus line, pick it up
They have
any
a
bus
great
stop.
system.
Same system you're running, for 75 cents Canadian, really $1.50, because 75 cents gets you one place, and you have to have 75 cents to get back.
Right.
For the dollar, or $1.50 or $2, I mean, we're talking the elderly population, where that's a critical piece, is that money at this point in time. Because if you have to get cab fare,
Oh, it's really significant.
because we have one monopoly for cabs at this point in time, and they can choose to charge what they want to charge.
Yep.
And
And
so
they're not
that's-
real reliable either.
Right, and so that's a concern I have, that we have to take a look at that funding, because we're adding to that, so we're providing that service at a cheaper cost, because if we take it away, then the seniors and those folks that don't have rides now have to come up with a difference to get that to go. And
That's true.
if it's $60, we've got problems, because our elderly population is not going to be able to afford that, or people on welfare at that point in time are not going to be able to afford it.
And
I'm sorry,
I don't
cut
think the
you off.
volunteer driver program is going to, we do well to get the number of volunteers, we just don't have them. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, burnout's
We
a
do
big
not
issue,
have
yeah.
the number of volunteers we need. Because basically, what you're asking is for a volunteer to be available 24/7. That's what you're asking. And that's not going to happen.
I have just a series of questions.
Shoot.
What's the capacity of your bus?
It's basically called a cutaway or an 18-passenger.
Yeah.
So we
16.
we say 16
Plus two wheelchair?
plus
Yeah.
two people,
Okay.
yeah,
So
two
it's
people using
16
wheelchairs.
riders, two wheelchairs. Okay, so, what percentage of your time are you full? Like,
Of the bus itself?
yeah, I guess, okay.
Shower.
Yeah, actually, there are busy, that's easier to answer. There are busier times. We definitely have the morning commute times when people are trying to get to doctor's appointments and get to work and back. And then we have the evening when people are doing the reverse.
reverse.
And we do actually have right around noontime, during the shift change area, because there's a lot of seniors who are going out for the morning and coming back at that point. A lot of medical appointments, we discover people will have to be there for 2 or 3 hours, and then they come back after that. So there's a bit of a rush again in the middle of the day.
Yeah, there's some employees, too, that are going,
Yep.
like
They have
restaurant
They have
work.
the shift changes, yeah,
Yeah.
so they start at 11, and then they get done later in the evening, so.
This might be a 2 or 3 part question, but are people ever turned away? Let me rephrase that. Can someone just show up at a bus stop and get on the bus,
Yep.
or do they have to prearrange every ride?
They can, any of the 11 set stops, they can just show up and get on the
So
bus.
if I'm at the fire station and it stops there at 9:30 and I'm there at 9:30, I
You can get on the bus.
As long as there's room.
Correct.
Okay. 'Cause you-
If you aren't at a stop, you just have to call the day before, and we'll deviate and go pick
Do
you
you
up.
know what, on one route through town,
Mm-hmm.
one trip, do you know how many times you're deviating off that route?
Oh, that's a good question. Have we ever looked at that?
Not on an average, but it all depends on the demand.
Mm-hmm.
There's certain days that
I
are
mean, potentially, you
heavier.
could have 16 deviations off of your route.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are some days that are really
You got to pick up one
heavy.
person.
Yep.
That's it, okay.
There are some days that are really heavy. We have some days that are volunteer days, where everybody seems to be out doing their volunteer work, and we have a lot of people that travel on those days. The beginning of the month, we have much heavier volume than we do the end of the month. Those are all factors that come into play, for sure.
My last question, do you know what the geographical center of your route is?
I would actually say Tilton.
Right, but, I mean, is it downtown Tilton, is it the Tanger Outlets, is it?
I would
Something
say
to Guilford?
between, no, I would say it
What
would,
is Guam?
I would say it would
Franklin to
be, the geographic center or the actual use center? Like
Geographic.
most-
Geographic.
Geographic?
It's just something in my head where he was talking about different routes, and I'm just thinking, geez, if you ran one bus.
Mosquito
Yeah, it probably
Bridge.
would be Mosquito Bridge.
Mosquito
It
Bridge.
probably would be
Okay,
Mosquito
no, my
Bridge.
thinking was, if it was more towards the outlets, for instance, if you potentially had the funding to run one bus here to make more stops, and maybe increase your
Yeah.
ridership from West Franklin to the
Well,
outlets, and then.
when we had the full funding that we had 4 years ago, whatever it was, that's what we did. We had one bus that came from, did Laconia to the depot. We had the depot as kind of the center
It's the
spot.
hub.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we had a bus that came from West Franklin up to the depot and back. So they would bring people from this area to the center of Laconia, and then the Laconia bus would take them out to where they were going in
If you,
Laconia.
if you eliminated, say, the Guilford end of your route, and then would that make the Tanger Outlet? I'm just playing with my head here.
Sure.
If you took that route and say.
I'm
went
going to
from-
call you the next time we have to do a route change. You got the right idea.
But-
I think we're on budgets, not
No,
redesigning.
but I'm just justifying,
No, yeah.
if you had the funding and,
Yep.
I would say if he's talking about economic and getting jobs in the Tilton
Yep.
versus going to Concord,
Sure.
pulling people
And one
in.
of the things I looked at most recently before we ended up with a whole bunch of other stuff going on, we continuously get a call for Saturday service. That's a big one. People want to be able to travel on Saturdays, and we can't do that right now. But we do have days that we don't have a whole lot of ridership on. You know, like Thursdays is a really low day. There are a couple days during the week that we don't have that much ridership
Right.
on. So I was entertaining the thought of, do we do some sort of a poll to say to folks, hey, would you rather have Saturday service and not run Thursdays? You know, what would that look like and how would that impact you guys? So those are the things that's what my role does as a mobility manager.
Like you said, you know, we're not gonna help you with your routes and things, but what would help me would be by helping our businesses.
Sure.
Right. Saturday, mall, Walmart,
Yep,
something along those lines. 'Cause
Yep.
that's how you could justify
yep.
doing it.
And that's one of the reasons we were,
You
yep.
get to the people who need it the most.
Oh, no,
Pat had a question, too.
we
so-
do
I have a quick
encourage.
question for clarification purposes. Last year, when you hired the mobility manager and the travel trainer, my understanding was the travel trainer was funded by a grant.
Yes,
Yep.
Okay. Just for clarification
Correct.
purposes,
Yep.
that's how that got funded.
correct.
Has that grant expired? Do you still have that position?
The grant did expire. We do have the position because we did manage to roll it into the DOT funding. With the way the Department of Transportation works is you have to prove that you have the need for that before they'll fund it. So we got the grant to get the position to show what work would be done, and then they said, oh, okay, you really do need that position, so yes, we'll fund it. So we did get it funded through the Department of Transportation for this current year for the travel trainer.
You don't show any income from DOT on this page I'm looking at. The state funds New Hampshire Transportation, and it's empty across.
Oh, yes. State of New Hampshire Transportation, yeah. I want to say it's been there too long. I want to say it's 4 years now. We get absolutely no money from the state. We used to get state funding, which in turn was match money, just like we get it from the towns and sign advertising, and the state stopped funding all transportation about 4 years ago, I want to say.
So when I say New Hampshire Department of Transportation, I mean the federal funds that come down through New Hampshire Department of Transportation.
Okay, so you don't get any state funds?
No state funds.
Federal?
Correct.
Okay.
It's through the state, but it's all federal.
So, and I'm understanding this, Belmont pays 0, Franklin pays 0, and Guilford pays 0. And Tilton with a population of 3,600, you want them to pay 5,000?
We're asking.
And Laconia, I can't even guess what their population is, they pay 2,500?
We asked for 5,000. They paid 2,500.
That's what we did last year, 2,500.
Yeah, I mean, this is the same conversation we had last year, and what efforts have you made to convince, I mean, I understand what you said about Guilford, but how about Franklin and Belmont? I mean, certainly there are Franklin residents that use the system.
Yep, and we make the same requests that we made to you guys. We come and talk to people. I meet with anybody that I can meet with there to try to justify, and they all say they understand, they all say they know it's there, and they...
And it looks like you can accept money from other, says sign advertising, Medicaid fundraising, and donations. Has anybody approached Tanger Outlet Mall? Because it must certainly benefit them.
Well, that's the
And
conversation
Walmart.
that I most recently had, because we've been asking them to advertise, because they had suggested that they would want to support the system through advertising, so we asked them to advertise, and they said flat out no. So I finally got a conversation with him through this other committee that I was on, and he suggested that we ask for a donation as opposed to advertising, so that's the next step with that.
Same like Walmart, too.
I know, we had the same conversation last year about getting, and I asked it about getting Tanger to donate cash money here. Have
And
some
he-
money.
And he said advertising, and then said no.
And what about Walmart, and what about Belknap Mall, what about,
Walmart said no.
well, I'm not
Belknap.
surprised about Walmart.
Belknap Mall, I contacted the corporate office 3 times and never got a call back, and wrote a letter and never got a contact back, and it's the nature of the beast with fundraising, so.
And I hate to keep you, I mean, we're 45 minutes over our allotted time, but my final questions for me would be, if you didn't get our funding, would that kill you guys, because now you'd have to match and the federal funds would dry up?
It wouldn't probably
the
kill
state?
us, but it would definitely impact the route. It would mean that we would have to make some adjustments some way, if we couldn't find that match someplace else.
And the other question I have is, if another sequester type thing happens, which is very possible in January, February,
We'll have to make some adjustments.
what does adjustments mean? Like
We'd have to,
shut down?
part of the route,
large chunk of
probably.
the route?
Yeah.
Some shut down routes or cancel some of the buses, some of the trips.
Probably, we'd have to look at, I honestly don't know what the changes would be, but I would imagine we'd have to shorten the
Either
times
shorten the
that,
routes or the times. or
we'd have to shorten the
something.
times that the drivers are actually driving, so we'd probably have to,
Over.
but, we'd probably have to do something to shorten the route.
And I'm not a big fan of hypotheticals, I'm just more realistic, that if the money's not there, let's say that the federal government cuts your budget another $10,000, that $10,000 then has to come from driver salaries, gas, maintenance, which is your operating budget, which cannot be made up through the advertising budget for 1 year.
Correct.
Right.
Okay, so you're going to be stuck until you can access those next funds.
Correct.
Just one last question. Did you deviate into Northfield?
Do we deviate into Northfield?
Yeah, Northfield's right on the other side of the road.
Here it is.
I don't know if I've ever seen any
30.
deviations for
Yeah,
that.
there's some in
Have you?
there.
So it's not,
That's not a second.
it's not 10% of your deviations for...
No, I was going to say, I don't remember seeing.
Yeah.
I'm good, thank you.
Anything else?
You're right, though, we should probably approach them as well. I didn't even
But the
think
other
of
thing
that.
I was going to say is when we were talking about routes, we encourage, everybody here, that if something goes on, you hear something, there's a complex going in, let us know. Call Terry, call me, or whatever, that we'll look at the route. I mean, we get rated, and you had asked ridership, we get rated on how many heads show up on the bus, how many people ride, and if we can pull into a complex and leave with 10,
Right.
that's great for me.
That's what gives me encouragement, is you were looking at the possibility of 770 more riders next year.
Yeah.
Like the point that was
Actually,
made, that
That's a good
the
point.
people who
The
need it more people are gonna need it.
new housing development up in Lockmere,
Lockmere Meadows.
Lockmere Meadows, we're talking with them now about putting a bus stop up there to be
We
able
also have the
to...
2 trailer parks that are across the road
Yeah.
with low-income people in it and whatnot.
Which is where the senior center is.
Yeah.
And we've already discussed that. And another thing I would like to add is that Terry, in her old job, when she was wearing her other hat, she used to have meetings, we'd have meetings periodically, and this hall would be filled with riders who came from Laconia and every place else wanting more and more stops. Because of various changes, those meetings stopped, and Terry is now going to start those up again. So I think that's a good thing.
Absolutely.
Is this your number to contact you here at the 225-3295?
That would be mine, yep.
Okay.
Yep.
We can... If there's anything else, we're kind of running a little behind, but it's been very informative. Even though it's second time, third time for me, but still...
Things
it's-
change, hey.
Yeah.
You guys ask great
You should be
questions,
honored.
thank you.
World Series.
I know.
Bruins game
I just
set off one of our
I just
meetings
thought
one
of that,
time.
that's
Somebody
right,
realized the
yeah.
Bruins were starting. Yeah,
That's right.
sorry.
Yeah, we also have somebody else waiting for us.
That's
too,
okay,
so-
because the Red Sox game won't start for another half hour or so.
I just remember the
8:07
meeting
first
where
pitch.
somebody realized the Bruins are
I want to,
fucking
again,
dropping.
thank you for the
5
information. I never knew how much it actually costs to be on the bus.
Well, there you go.
I think I'll be joining you.
Well, and we really appreciate you guys, all
Yeah.
that you do and all the support you give us. It's really very
We'll
helpful.
ride
and
our meetings doing that.
If you have any
Future
input,
riders.
give us a call. I'm happy to.
I hope
yeah.
we could keep giving this to our residents that need it, because they're the ones who need it the most.
Yep.
And it's great that a rural community could do it. I just wish you the best of luck at keeping it going,
We'll do it. We're
Crazy.
positive.
Crazies in
I haven't seen
Washington,
that.
I mean, we're a little nutty right here too, but the crazies in Washington got us by 1,000.
Everybody for your time.
Yeah, thank
Well, it's
you.
your
Thank
time.
you.
Go watch the Red Sox game and get some sleep.
Yeah.
8:07's first pitch, so.
Well, that's an awful
You can, when have they ever
Finish up
started?
real quick. We have
World Series they do. Well, it's all things orchestrated.
They got 3 Medal of Honor.
Hi, thank you, Terry.
Don't worry, I'll just pull it
Okay.
up here.
They got 3 Medal of Honor winners they're going to do, so it's going to be a long.
Okay, the next would be Gail's here.
Patience is a virtue, Gail.
And she's very patient, you did well.
She's going to throw her pitch.
Okay.
Come on.
You're on.
Gail.
That's okay.
There
Yeah,
goes
Mr.
her.
Chairman, I make a motion that we...
Cut it.
Done.
Shall we tell her she
Easy.
has
We'll be home for
5
first
minutes?
pitch.
I'm with you.
Don't get their lucky uniforms on in time.
Don't get me started on sports.
You have 2 minutes, so
Okay.
don't be friendly, just stop.
Okay,
You
so
really are, Gail?
I am.
Okay, so we actually have one person.
Yes.
well, we've always heard the great things about CAP, and I think it's touched just about everybody here has been helped, or a friend or family or something, so.
And for the new people, what we serve 8 towns. Tilton is one of those. And right now, we have an office in Franklin. And we just ask the towns to help support to keep us open so that we can run the fuel assistance program, the statewide electrical discount program, the emergency food, the security deposit program, weatherization, the list of everything that we do and how many people we've served for Tilton is in your packet. Now, there is a little bit something new written into the projected operating budget. We are looking for a new space to move to. And so we have put in, for the rent, we're looking for a place that's approximately 2,200 square feet. I'm open to any options anybody has. I'm still looking. It's kind of hard to find because of parking is our major
You have hours of operation that you have to have?
Friday, 8:30 to 4:30. We do evening appointments, sometimes in the fall when we get really busy.
How many parking spaces?
We need at least 5 just for employees. So on any given day, we're looking at possibly 10 to 15.
Possibly, probably 15.
What's the post office?
The old post
We have
office.
a middle
Well, you
school.
know what?
I thought about that, too.
Sign on the door,
We have office space.
and I've been trying to call the guy. I'm not getting any response back from him, because that's an awesome place.
He's on yoga training right now.
Okay. So,
The parking lot in front of it is not part of the building.
oh,
That's municipal building.
That's municipal,
park.
but it's public parking, so your clients could use it,
Where was this?
but it wouldn't be
Where
dedicated.
the old wooden
Their parking space is out back.
Wait, that's not a town building?
furniture store.
No,
Where did I think they gave it to the town?
that was the United States Post Office.
Yeah, but I thought we got it somehow. Okay.
No, the network managers had
Jim
it.
Lang.
Tim Lang, yeah. Okay. I've left messages.
I thought he did. And he is.
But you can adapt the back.
Which one are we talking about?
Park out back.
What are we talking about? Which area?
So you're looking for level funding? Other than the 22,000? You're asking
Yes,
us for level
I'm
funding?
not asking for a raise this year.
My telling.
Yeah.
Have you had any impact from the federal government? We were talking about sequesters and... all
Yeah,
that
well, let me
wonderful
tell you, fuel assistance is our federal funded program. Now, granted, on normal years, Congress doesn't vote on our budget until around Thanksgiving time anyway. And we're always hoping our money to be released in December. This year, we don't know what's going to happen. We're hoping it's just going to stay on track. Because what happens is, last year, our funding didn't come through until mid-December. Now, I've done this over 15 years, and I think one year it came in January, but usually it's December 1st. And what that does for all the local fuel companies is, for people who heat with deliverable fuels, that's a credit that goes to their account that they can use right away. And for anybody that heats with electric, it's a credit, towards their monthly bill, depending on how much their benefits are. Benefits range anywhere between $150 and a little over $1,000. Anybody that has heat included in the rent may also qualify, as long as they're not subsidized, because the government's already paying for the heat portion of the rent. Natural gas is also another big one, although because granted good old supply and demand, they're going to raise their rates by 10%. And what we also do is, if they qualify for fuel assistance, they may qualify for weatherization. Weatherization just got a lot of funding this fall. So much funding that the furnace replacement program we're signing everybody up that we can for weatherization. They also can do work with the gas company. So if they have a heating system that's aged, but they have natural gas piped into where they live, they can do a grant through the gas company and through weatherization and put in a natural gas furnace and a system in their house, things like that. So there's a lot of good things happening with that. We make a lot of home visits. We do applications wherever it's needed. It doesn't have to be an elderly homebound person that we do home visits for. Could be a single mother, just doesn't have transportation. So there's a lot of ways that we try to get the programs out to people.
So what is your total budget for everything? Is it,
It's on the operating...
72,522.
okay, so out of that, you have a limited overhead. Most things going out to services, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, that's what I'm looking for. What percentage is overhead and what percentage is actual services, do you know?
I don't know those numbers.
Okay, that's,
Yeah. Because really, how it works is, for fuel assistance in particular, we start applications in July,
yep.
and we've got them all into the computer system waiting for funding. So when funding comes, it just goes right out. So it's an in and out process. There's never any pot or anything like that that's sitting, collecting money or anything, waiting for something to open up. It's just kind of how we operate on all those grants.
So one of the important things that we're looking at is the percentage of monies that are going to direct services
Absolutely.
versus administrative costs.
Yes.
And,
Some of the administrative costs are usually out of the federal share,
Okay.
because we can get some admin monies from that.
Good.
Yeah, town's just mostly direct service.
Has the number of services to Tilton residents gone up, stayed about the same, or decreased?
It stayed about the same, but again, it depends on the program. Now, for fuel assistance, and we don't know why, but statewide last winter, the numbers went down for people who applied. And there's no rhyme or reason. We don't know if it was negative impact on the radio and the news about, oh, they're cutting federal funds, yada, yada, yada. We don't know what the actual answer was. This year, I've seen an increase already. Absolutely an increase already.
Do you think that has to do with the fact that they're saying it's going to be a cold winter, or?
Well, yeah, I've done this for so long, and there's no pattern to it. Because the only thing I can think of why people didn't apply last year, because we do hear this a lot, is, well, I knew you guys didn't have a lot of money, so I didn't want to take it away from somebody who really needed it.
Yeah.
So whether that was really the...
Another question. On your fuel assistance, it's 164 applications. Was that just from the town of Tilton?
That is correct.
So-
These are all just Tilton numbers.
What percentage of those are approved? Is that all 164 applicants got something?
I don't know that answer to that.
And could someone have
Because-
multiple applications, or is it just a one-time?
Yeah, if they don't qualify the first time they apply for fuel assistance, whatever the reason may be, over income, didn't bring all their docs or whatever, they can reapply as many times as they can throughout our time frame until April 30th to qualify.
So you can make out the applications, but once you're qualified, you're good for that
Fuel
cycle.
assistance, yes.
For
The
that,
statewide
okay.
electrical discount program, you can reapply every month if you want.
Okay.
And that's a year-round program.
Well, I think the pamphlets that are given out are pretty specific about who qualifies and who doesn't, so I would think that probably most of the people who apply would qualify. I mean, it's
Yeah.
spelled out pretty clearly.
Generally, per se. And the pamphlets show a monthly income. But if you don't qualify on a monthly income, we could stretch you out and do year-to-date. And if you still don't qualify year-to-date, well, heck, we'll do a 365. Any way to, to get it to qualify.
Your budget indicates town share 2013 budget of $76,200. Your 2014 budget of $58,000.
I missed what you said at the beginning. What was that?
Your budget here for 2013,
Yep.
the town share was $76,200. The budget, and then the 2014 budget's dropped down to $58,000. Is there a,
Oh, we upped the federal share for some of those block grants.
so we would be funding almost, just under 50% of that in the town?
I actually did the numbers on these. For 2013, federal was 49% of their budget and town was 51%. This year, it's gone to the towns being 34% and federal at 66%.
But we're still, but we're still
Yeah.
gonna, they're looking for $23,000 from us, so that's a little
Right.
under 50% that you're looking for.
Well, that was going to be my main question. I think I'll ask his question, tell me if I'm wrong, but federal shares for next year is going to be 114,000. The towns combined is 58,000. Of that, you're asking us for 23,000 and change, which means the town of Tilton is being asked for 40% of the town's share, and the other 6 towns are being asked for 60%. Why is Tilton
What?
being justified as 40%
Because
of 6 of them?
We go by the percentage of people we serve. Tilton's one of my top towns that we serve, percentage-wise. Danbury, very tiny amount, so we'd ask for 1,500, so we do it by percentage of who we serve.
And I don't want to cut into
No,
it. I don't know if I asked it properly what you were asking.
What do you receive from Franklin?
Well, they agreed to give us 5,000 this year. They haven't funded us for 3 years.
And the other question I had was your payroll, taxes, fringe benefits. For 2013, it was 22% of your cost of, we'll call it payroll expenses.
Yep.
Next year, it's 30%. What's the reason for the 8% hike?
The office assistant that we had is now full-time with benefits, and we have a temporary fuel assistance worker that has no benefits, but I do believe it's in that number. So, yeah, that's what.
Your offices are in Franklin, and Franklin donates nothing? Correct?
Sure, well, they said
Correct.
5,000 this year.
What percentage of your clientele would be from Franklin?
They're our highest.
Where do we fall?
Second.
Second highest. So, I mean, percentage-wise, are they 50% and we're 40%, everyone else is 10?
Run those numbers
Okay.
this year. No, Northfield's my third.
How much do they give you?
I don't remember. I don't have that with me.
Do they fund you?
Yes.
More than Franklin? If they give you 5,000?
Anybody funds me more
I was
than
gonna say, I didn't think Franklin
Well, she said
funded
I
them.
thought she said 5,000.
They're, yes, 5,000 for this year.
This would be Franklin, would Northfield be more than 5,000?
Yes.
Very diplomatic, by the way, and good luck on your new office search in a different town. Okay.
Gail, can you, because you're federally funded, can you say no to the towns that don't fund you? Can you say, I need to say no to these services because they're not available, we're not getting any funds?
That would be an easy answer to say yes, but the answer is no.
Okay.
Because it's a fuel assistance per se, is a federally funded program run by the states, who then mandate the CAP offices to offer the program as a mandatory program to everyone who qualifies. We have to still say
You
yes.
still have to see. So regardless of whether Franklin, or anybody, if Tilton didn't fund you, you'd still have to service Tilton
We would.
residents for this program.
We would.
So you work at the county, really at the county level. Anyone that falls within that county, you have
No,
to,
Actually,
she's in Merrimack County.
My office serves Belknap and Merrimack.
it's both.
Yeah. she's
That's
in-
what I'm saying. That's
They're
a
located
county.
in Merrimack.
So within the county, you're not working really on the local level, the city level. It's actually anyone in your catchment area is
Yeah.
eligible for those funds, whether or not the towns within that catchment area provide any donations.
Correct. And it's actually mandated for some of the programs for the towns to financially assist us. I'm just don't see
Isn't
it that way.
Plymouth on? Yeah, I thought, yeah, you have Plymouth on there. I was gonna say, they even have Plymouth.
Yeah, we don't do Plymouth.
Anything else? Anybody?
You did
I
good.
guess we're
Thank you.
all set, and thank you. We've always heard great things, so
Thank you for your patience.
we're hoping other towns will help out this year.
All right, thanks, folks.
Good luck with the feds.
Okay, and we go right on to other business. I don't believe there, we did reschedule, or we need to reschedule the Recreation Council,
Joanna's
which was going to be here on 11/13.
Sorry, Perry.
We have the libraries here that same time. Did anybody else ask to be rescheduled?
There was still a debate about Genesis getting scheduled at all.
Well, they were scheduled. We did
Yes,
end up
they've been
scheduling them.
scheduled.
I believe the Pines is the only one right now.
6.
What time is
11:20, we took, it just did, I think, 11:20.
Kickoff. Baseball isn't kickoff, is it? I'm not a baseball fan.
I don't.
What else do we have for 11:20? Can we fit them in then? We were going to have CASA, the only thing we have scheduled for 11:20 would be, that I see is Youth Assistance Program. They're usually pretty quick.
Show them up.
What do you guys think? You folks?
Whatever
Switch
you
them out
think.
to 11:20?
Yep.
Yep. Give them a shot at that date.
That's fine.
The Pines,
Wait a second,
11:20?
do this for a second.
Yeah, the only thing we have scheduled was Youth Assistance Program for that day, since this is all set.
So the fines are coming in on the 20th.
Yes, we're going to reschedule them for them.
All right.
So, yeah, and
Sarah,
And
I-
that's it for other business? Anybody, Red Sox fans here?
Make a motion to adjourn?
We have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved. Thanks.
Good patience.